All right, here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the final episode of Breakdown for Season 2. I am very, very excited to share that we have a returning guest. And if you don't know, Breakdown the Poet and the Poems is a poetry conversation series. So I get to talk too. It's a poetry conversation series featuring one poet and one poet's project. This time we're going to make a little bit of an exception. This is a wild card and so fitting for this particular guest because we're going to actually be talking a little bit about 3 books and the leading up to the 3rd. All right, so this time we are featuring DaMaris B and her forthcoming publication, Blood Bible, An American History. Welcome, DaMaris.
Thank you for having me, Tamara. I am so happy to be here.
I am happy to have you. So we got to jump in because you know I got a lot to talk to you about. We got to jump in. All right. So for those who don't know you, as silly as that sounds, I'm going to share your bio. Okay. DaMaris B is a poet and creative scholar. Her most recent book, Breath Better Spent, Living Black Girlhood, is deemed urgent and luminous in a starred Publishers Weekly review. Hill's first poetry collection, A Bound Woman is a Dangerous Thing, is a powerful narrative in verse that bears witness to Black women burdened by incarceration. It was an Amazon #1 bestseller in African American poetry, a Publishers Weekly Top 10 history title, and 2020 NAACP Image Award nominee for Outstanding Literary Work in Poetry. Congratulations. Hill's other books include The Fluid Boundaries of Suffrage and Jim Crow, Staking Claims in the American Heartland, Shut Up in My Bones, a visual poem, and Visible Textures. Mm-hmm. Her next book is a memoir entitled Blood Bible, An American History, and it will be published with Bloomsbury in 2027. Similar to her creative process, Hill's scholarly research is interdisciplinary. She was a 2024-2025 National Endowment for the Humanities Fellow at the John Carter Brown Library at Brown University and a fellow with the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University. Hill is chair and professor of creative writing and English literature at her alma mater, I messed that up, Morgan State University. Congratulations again on everything. Everything. Listen, and thank you so much for squeezing in some time so we could talk about this because I know your schedule is absolutely full. But
I always have time to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So I wanted to read all of your bio. We needed to have all of that in terms of some of the things that I want to ask you about your process and everything that goes into your work. However, I always challenge myself with each guest to do a breakdown blurb, right? And that blurb is usually on one book, right? So I wanted to excuse myself first. I was like, well, I don't have to do it for this one because we're talking about 3. And I was like, nah, that's cheating, right? So I challenged myself to do a blurb on the progression that I've seen in your writing, okay?
Okay.
All right. With her widespread research and courageous writing, DaMaris B continues to liberate history from the empire. She not only pushes the envelope, but dares to open it, scrutinize its contents, and correct them when necessary, while ripping the envelope to shreds. Her work intertwines history, science, creative writing, and ancestry to define legacies that honor us and demand our acknowledgement. Yeah. It's an honor to have you. It's an honor to have you. All right, so I want to start by sharing with you sometimes a blurb comes easily to me. Sometimes it's a little hard and I have to reach for it.
Mm-hmm.
The blurb that I did for you came particularly from my watching your lecture on Blood Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the quote that you had, history will be kind to me for I intend to write it, by
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill, right? And so I immediately thought, well, if we are writing it, dot, 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 right? We are not only being kind to ourselves, but we are honoring and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging ourselves, whether other folks do or not.
Exactly.
There was so much in that lecture, and with your permission, I think when we post your episode, I think it would be great to just add the link to that lecture.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, okay, yeah, because I think that that would be really, really helpful. And the first thing I would like for you to talk to us about is human history or
Mm-hmm.
human story. Yeah, let's say it that way. Human story versus the empire story. If you would talk to us a little bit about that, because that came up in your lecture.
Yes. I think what I can say about human story versus empire story is when I was, matriculating in undergrad, I continued to switch majors at least 85 times. One, because I was insecure about wanting to be a writer, but two, it took me a while to articulate the language that an empire's history is not necessarily my history.
Mm,
My history may be despite empire,
mm,
or maybe because of empire, but I existed before that national story came into being. So I thought it was important to explore that, even with the obstacles of me not understanding my names that are not in English. So whatever African names, whatever indigenous names are also encoded into my story and my body, I do not know them because I only speak English. And the other language I speak is also European. I just don't have them, and they're not recorded in the same way or kept in the same way. So you're kind of forced to have this dialogue with empire, or otherwise you're kind of entering a science fiction or a speculative fiction realm.
mm, mm.
But it's not speculative fiction. It's probably really is your story, but it's beyond the confines of a dominant understanding.
Okay.
I don't
I
know if I
was
said that right.
no, 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 no. That makes total sense. And what I was thinking as you were speaking was that's how poetry helps,
Mm-hmm.
right? Poetry helps when you are reaching for a language within a language or a language beyond a
Mm-hmm.
language, right? So that leads me to my next question. I was surprised when I was watching the lecture when you said something about giving yourself permission to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
That was new to me.
What do
So,
you mean?
when and how did you give yourself permission to be a writer?
What do you mean? Well, because this is a memoir.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a curation of a memory, some memories and a time. But there are some spaces that this body did not physically occupy that are in the memoir.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to explore them with whatever memory I have available
Mm-hmm.
in order to liberate it from the archive.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood the
Mhm.
the comment that you made in the lecture because I thought you were saying that at one time you didn't feel like you were a writer.
Oh yeah, there were many times I didn't feel like I was a writer.
Really? That really surprised me.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I wasn't writing.
Right.
It just means I didn't feel like a writer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there were many times.
When did that shift for you? Do you remember?
Hmm. First time is probably winning the Hurston, professionally at least, winning the Hurston Wright Award for college writers, but I was like 28 then. And then when I made the decision to really pursue it professionally, like 34. Yeah, I was pretty old.
Please.
I know, but like, to, I mean, I thought about it all the time, but making a decision to live inside of a dream or a desire is a different level of maturity.
Yes. Yes. And it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah,
It
or
takes a lot
commitment to
of
end suffering, one or the other.
I mean, some people might argue, though, if you dive into writing, you're asking for more suffering. So we're going to leave that alone. We're going to
Well,
leave that
that is
alone.
true. That is
Yeah.
true. That is true. But you get to choose your kind.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And there are delightful surprises and there's healing in that work at the same time. So I get that.
Yes, there is. And
I
that
do.
blouse is so nice.
Oh, thank you. Thank
I
you. Thank
really
you.
love
Thank
it.
you. All right. So we're going to dive into a poem.
Okay.
Since we're talking about you coming into your writing, what I did was I thought, okay, we're going to do one poem from
Hmm.
Bound, one poem from Breath Better, and then
Hmm.
we're going to talk about Blood Bible, and I have a whole lot of questions. Okay?
Okay.
So I would like for you to take Bound
Okay.
and go to page, let's see, I think, go to Shut Up in My Bones. And if you would please, because I'm trying to keep time in mind, if you would read only page 4 and not the whole piece. And that'll, I want to shift into some questions on that. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Shut up in my bones for Harriet Beecher Sproul Hill. I have the racket of anxiety in my jeans. It rivets in ink. Like this, I leave these marks. This evidence of us undone. In wit's end, it all ferments, and we shape totems of shame from our amusements. The musk of my imagination is as redolent as any untamed woman, and likewise mistaken for mental illness. Perfection is a mask, a perfume in my pulse. I learn to hide what is feared. To be literate is to pen oneself with needles, shape beauty from a funhouse mirror. This is how artists learn the craft of display. Call this confession a lie. Look closer. I stubbed my toe tightrope walking the lashes of circus clowns. Only the liberated can see the legacies of bondage stirring beyond the ribbons. I have come to know I am the savory morsel in America's teeth. These words are clawed into the enamel. My face is familiar among the haints, and I wear her likeness like a call.
Okay, so guess what line gets me?
What? Which one?
The doggone, it's marked in the copy of my book that you have yet to sign, but we're going to make that happen. I stubbed my toe, tightrope walking the lashes of circus clowns. I was like, what is she on? What is she? That's all I could think when I read that line. And it gets me every single time I hear that. Every single time. You made a statement in your lecture.
Mhm.
I intend to know my ancestors. Why?
Mhm.
Why?
I intend to know my ancestors because I know the history that was curated for me is largely stitched together with lies. And there's a consistent need to erase, particularly now, a persistence and a viciousness to erase the contributions of my ancestors, whom, when you really get to know everything there is to know, about which I do not know, right? But when I think I know everything there is to know about the business of chattel slavery, I learned one more thing. And as I was doing some of the research for Blood Bible, at one point I was just driving on my way to the archives, bopping and dancing with Stephanie Mills, Never Knew Love Like This, and you can believe that that is a romantic song. But what happened to me, I was like, the only thing I can describe it as is like a conversion and a spiritual experience. I was just washed over in that song and started counting all the times that I would have killed myself in this endeavor of surviving empire, and that my ancestors chose not to. And then understanding that I don't love big enough.
What
I
does
need,
that mean? What
I
does
need
that
to
mean?
love bigger. I need to love bigger. The fact that I could imagine quitting at any of those, multiple generations, any 8 or 12 generations, that I could imagine quitting, that I could imagine just surrendering to the darkness and the hereafter. And they did not. Therefore, I exist.
Hmm.
I don't love big enough. I need to love 12 generations in advance.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Because that's what I was just thinking to ask you.
Yeah, I
When they were
figure
loving,
out.
do you think they saw you coming or they felt you coming and loved their way through to you?
I do, because I believe they learned to love outside of linear time. I think their understanding of the world was more complete than the world that was necessary for capital, which is a chiseled world, which is a narrow world. I need to learn 12 generations in advance. I need to love enough to make a choice today that's going to benefit 12 generations ahead, if at all possible. I need to love bigger.
How different would all of our lives be if we chose to do that?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I'm far from
Absolutely.
perfect, but it's an ambition of mine to love bigger.
When did this intention of yours to know your ancestors start? Can you remember a time when it may have started or when you
I,
might have taken it really more seriously?
I can't pinpoint that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my ancestors that were enslaved are from a space that was preserved immediately after the Civil War because the South wanted everybody to believe that plantations were like this. It was a plantation owned by some Irish guys. It's called Somerset Place. It was one of the largest plantations in the upper north in North Carolina on the coast. And the plantation had a reward system. So the more children you had, the bigger house they would build you. And even now, it's three two-story, uh, I would say, for lack of a better word, slave shacks on a plantation. But the more kids you have, the bigger house they're gonna build you. Most people on that plantation knew how to read. Reading was a reward. There were 3 doctors on the plantation. These Irish people, I suspect, they were in slave trading before they became plantation owners, and they were not invested in losing any of their property. So they would bring back 800 slaves in a hole rather than 1,200. But it still wasn't perfect. I mean, the first 80 people that came off the ship looked around and walked directly in the ocean.
Mm.
And then it's letters from the plantation owner that he had the band singing on the plantation. He writing to his homeboy. He said he had the band singing because he kept waking up at night in a sweat. He would look outside and what he considered his property would be dressed in their best clothes and walking out into the lake. because they was walking home too.
Wow.
So,
How do you, and I ask this most of the time when I'm talking to people about this work, how do you take care of yourself when you're doing this kind of work?
oh, a lot of stand-up comedy. I
Okay.
watch copious amounts of stand-up comedy
Okay.
to the
Okay.
point where I'm thinking about starting to do it. I'm
Hmm.
really thinking about it. But this is something that people have been telling me for like 15, 20 years.
I can see you doing that. That's what I was just thinking. I can see you doing that. Hmm.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, Dave Chappelle.
Okay. Okay.
Him, I mean, him and Richard Pryor, Whoopi Goldberg.
Hmm.
And Hassan Minaj is getting real close to Whoopi Goldberg.
Mm.
I like comics that can tell me a story.
Hmm. Yeah, they also have very, very deep commentaries as well, so that doesn't surprise me.
Hmm.
Not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
so I've been a fan of Dave Chappelle for a very long time, and I used to tell people he needs the Mark Twain Award. He needs Mark Twain Award. Probably about 7 years before he got it, because I realized that he was. So this is Richard Pryor's genius. Richard Pryor uses so much word economy in his storytelling and jokes that you can't retell
Mm.
a Richard Pryor joke. You can tell about the joke. You can't retell the joke.
Hmm.
It's just written too well.
Hmm.
You cannot retell the joke.
You know, but it's interesting that you should pick that up though, because that's what poetry does. Good poetry. It uses word economy. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Ev-
Okay.
Every word in a Richard Pryor story is laid like a jewel.
Mm.
Like he is making jewelry. So Dave Chappelle was on his way, and I used to be like, look, y'all, he like 98, 99% there. And right now he about 99.3, 99.5 there.
Hmm.
Like it's getting really hard to retell a Dave Chappelle joke too.
Hmm.
You can tell about the joke. You can't tell the joke.
All right, DaMaris, I'm gonna pull you back. We're not doing your stand up today, but please
Okay.
invite me when you do one because I gotta see this. I gotta see
I mean,
this.
I might. Maybe I'll just write it.
But you know, I do have to say that even when watching your lecture or when you've presented before, you always have a sense of humor. Even though you may be dealing with some of the darkest things, there's a light that you shine and you bring a sense of humor.
Oh,
And then
thank
your smile alone, you know what I mean? You're
you.
still able to smile in spite of, right?
Mhm.
Some of the darkest things. Before I move to the next poem, though, I want you to tell us who is Miss Harriet?
Oh,
The
there's a lot
one you
of
just read,
Harriet.
the no, the
Oh,
poem that you just
my
read.
grandmother.
Yes,
I
yes, yes.
was
Miss
like, there
Harriet
are a
Beecher
lot of
Sproul
Harriet.
Hill. Yes, I want to
There's a
acknowledge her.
Harriet Jacobs. There's a Harriet Tubman. There are some Harriets. There's a Harriet Beecher Stowe. There's some Harriets.
Hmm.
Um, well, she's the oldest of 13, and everybody says she was the smartest. But she didn't get to go to college because she married my grandfather, who was had a very special job with the United States military. So they lived overseas often. And so in the 50s, I mean, where a black woman gonna go to school overseas? Like figuring that out. Like it probably wasn't too safe for her to leave the base. And so she started reading, I hear, at a young age and just continued to read all her life. She wanted to be a librarian, but she got married. All her brothers and sisters got to go to school. She kind of resented that she didn't get to go to school. And that's the only thing that I remember her telling me in her house. I was supposed to be a librarian, but I got married. And then she would just walk away. I'm like, what? I'm like, 8. What? What are you telling me? Like, what are you saying? I don't understand.
So now she has this grandbaby who
Mhm.
is diving into libraries all over the country
All over.
and not just knowing where books are, but actually creating them. What do
Hmm.
you think she would have to say to you now, or what has she said to you lately?
She'd be like, "Oh, I'm so tickled." And she would laugh and she would laugh. But my grandmother in general was a wordsmith. So before she died, she was watching BET exclusively. And her favorite rapper was Ludacris. So that should let you know how she feel about words. Her favorite rapper was Ludacris. And she also told me that Little Kim and Trina was doing the work of the Lord. And I believe that too.
You come from a colorful lineage, don't you?
Right. She said, but when you think about it, if my grandmother didn't have a sense of imaginative boundaries or a sense of linear time, then sexuality and divinity would not be separated. If she saw their sexuality as their power, then she might have thought they were doing the work of the Lord. If I was born in the late 20s and in a community whose economic strength came from making tar, I might have thought what a block away from the plantation where my ancestors were enslaved. I might have thought that little Kim and Trina was doing the work of the Lord.
That's a perfect segue to the poem that I want you to read next. I
Which one
love the
is
way
that?
this works out. I want you to go to page 28 in Breath Better Spent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would, please, ma'am, read section 5 only. This is so perfect.
Let's see. And this is from the poem What You Talking About?
Mm-hmm.
You girl, cry out, well, be heard. You hurt if you got to, then you get on with it. The living. You better laugh, wrap your arms around a love that frightens you. Hold love like you a whale fluttering beneath him. No, you be like an octopus feeding. There is a man you love. He will hunt you in his days and dream of you for 30 years. He will taste you in the rhythms of his sweat, call out for you whenever he shuts his eyes, because you are a dusty gypsy with scars like hieroglyphs you call tattoos. You have made men itch in places that are a mystery to them. You will be the candy dish of a nation's fears.
That was so in line with what you were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in line. All right, we got to go there. You
Mm-hmm.
will be the candy dish of a nation's fears. What does that
Mm-hmm.
mean to you?
I think one reason that Black women that express themselves can become such a spectacle is because the mythology of the social or the social hierarchy that we live in America is just that, a mythology. And everybody knows down to the patriarch. And they just praying that a Black woman don't say something to let this whole mythology fall in on itself or collapse like a souffle. And I think that's one reason the gaze is upon us, in the ways that it is, because the hierarchy is a mythology. I mean, of course, obvious reasons of eroticism and sex and those things. But what happens when the object refuses to be an object? And I just thought it would be like a candy dish full of things that were going to hurt you for a patriarch. It would be all of your fears sparkling in a dish, tempting you.
And a candy dish is such a pretty thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually that good dishware, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's decorative and beautiful. That's interesting. I have a question that I wanted to ask you. What does it mean to wrap your arms around a love that frightens you? I think you partially answered that when you said something about loving better, loving so that it affects 12 generations ahead of you. Is there anything else that you need to add to the list?
Yeah.
Uh oh.
I think like loving things that frighten you. Um, I can only think of it. I may be quoting the title wrong because I'm so horrible with titles, just like I am with names. But Carl Phillips' Radiance versus Ordinary Light, he talks about loving a man, and then the ending line is break I'm gonna break your heart, please break mine. Like let's just love to the extreme. And I'm thinking about that, loving through the fear, like, oh my gosh, this man is so crazy, or this person is so crazy, or this person is so ugly, or this person wants too much of my time, or this person laughs, makes me laugh until my stomach hurt, and I don't have that type of time. I think those are the experiences that define our life and may pivot our life. And that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of the change in our life. We're afraid of that. We have learned somehow as a species, to be afraid of that. And we need to love through that. Just go on and evolve.
All right. Let's put a pin in that. That's a lot to think about.
Mhm.
A lot to think about. And I think part of the, before the pin, part of it, this fear of change is this fear of losing self,
Mhm.
right?
Or
Because we,
losing security, whatever that is.
I think that a lot of the time is because we put so much trust in the thing that we love and we forget that there needs to be a greater trust in the thing that made us in the first place, right?
Absolutely.
So that if my heart does fall apart, I know there is something that can put me back together again. And it's
Hmm.
not you,
Hmm.
right? It's something greater than the both of us. I think a lot of that really gets lost in the shuffle. So there ends up being a lot of, oh, I'm going to break you before you break me, or oh, I'm going to hurt you before
But,
you hurt
but
me.
but that's the competitiveness of patriarchy, right? And the need to either be defensively superior or hierarchically superior, right? One or the other. But what does it mean just to love radically? That's what I'm saying. Like love radically.
And that thing of loving what you fear,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about that in terms of empire,
Mm-hmm.
think about how many people and places and cultures have been decimated
Mm-hmm.
all because somebody feared them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this idea of loving something that is beyond your understanding is actually beyond certain people. And so
What
that's
if
what
we
we
taught
do.
each other that love was bigger than violence? And what if we really lived as love was the strongest power in the universe? How would that change the the violent assaults and other assaults that approach us? We'll be staying together.
On every level, from inside the home domestically to things that happen within a nation to things that happen across nations, right?
Mhm.
All right, so let's get to Blood Bible.
What about it?
Where'd the title come from? Blood Bible.
I mean, that's all I am is blood and Bible.
How so?
Um, because my parents met at Wilberforce University. So I am a dual citizen. I'm a citizen of the United States and a citizen of the UK because my mother was a citizen of the British Empire. And they met at Wilberforce University, and within a month they were engaged, and within 2 months they were married. And this is largely because of their affiliation with the AME Church. And that's it. My uncle, my mother is the fourth child, and her brother was the third. And her brother and my father were in seminary together. My mother came to go to college. That was it.
Did they stay together the rest of their lives?
No, they
No.
got divorced at 25 at their 25-year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's right,
Wow.
right?
Okay, that was totally none of my business, but I just had to ask. I just had to ask. And
Yeah.
it reminds me of, I remember being really a really young girl when
Mhm.
an older woman, like after 20 years or something like that, got divorced. It was an absolute scandal everywhere. Well, why she? That whole conversation and everything. That's interesting. That's really interesting to
Yeah.
me.
I just think I think it was a lot of things, a lot of clashing of personalities. But when it comes down to it, I think people that get married, it's because they want to get married. People that stay married, it's because they want to stay married. People that get divorced, it's because they want to get divorced. I don't know if it has anything to do with the partner or the partner's behavior. People that want to stay married find a way to work through it.
Watch out now. You're going to have a lot of people mad at you for that.
I
Because
mean,
it's
they
so
do,
much easier to blame somebody else instead of coming back to self.
especially when you don't understand your feelings. It's so easy to blame somebody else. But I think the people that I know that are married and their marriages have sustained, it is because both of the people wanted to stay married. People
And
that
it's
got
a choice
divorced,
you make almost every day.
I,
You make it
I'm sure you
regularly
make it
over and over
multiple
again.
times a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll be
Absolutely.
ready to get married when I'm 55. I don't know if I was ready to be married before that.
55 double nickels, that'll work.
Yeah,
That'll
that's
work.
right time for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people that get divorced, one or more people have decided they want to get divorced,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and everybody else is just somewhere trying to figure it out.
Actually, even the people who stay are still trying to figure it out. It's
I
an
know it.
ongoing thing because you're constantly changing, right? So it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, my
Sometimes
that's what my friend said. She said one of my friends that are married. She said this is the thing, because like I don't know about marriage for me. I don't know. Like it seems like the scariest thing for me. But she said this is what happens. You are never the same person for more than a moment. And you bury somebody in that moment, and you are two ideal people for one another. And then you change and your partner changes. And sometimes those people are not aligned. And then you'll change again and maybe you'll be aligned. And that is the course of the marriage. And I
okay.
was like, okay, thank you.
So whenever you get ready, off camera, we can
Hmm.
continue that conversation
Okay,
because I have some things to share with you.
okay,
Yes, so that you'll be ready by 55.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Seriously, seriously, we can do it over a cup of tea and Zoom or whatever and find a way to make that happen. Because I really do think that there are things that, as much as they say women talk, there
Hmm.
are things that we don't talk about at all or don't
Absolutely.
talk about enough. And for us to
Mhm.
be able to make those decisions that will have a positive ripple effect
Mhm.
12 generations from now, there's some things that we need to talk about. So we'll talk about
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Would you read something from Blood Bible for us?
Yeah, let me think. Let me think. Let me pull something up because it's all online.
So
It's
while you
all unregistered.
thinking,
Yeah.
while you thinking, I'm going to mention to anyone who will be watching, typically the poets who come to this platform, they have no idea what I'm going to ask them to read. They just know what book we're focused on. This time, however, because Blood Bible is forthcoming,
Mhm.
I didn't have a copy of it. I only got to watch the lecture. And so DaMaris is going to choose something, and it's going to be a surprise to me in terms of what she's going to read instead of the other way around.
Mhm. And I think I'm just gonna read maybe 2 pages from a story about an archive. I prayed to know my ancestors. It's my mother's birthday. She turned 73 in 2022. When I see her last name, her surname, her father's surname, on a map dated 1622, and the memories of our life together stop. I'm alone in an archive. I look to the left and to the right. The delight of recognition floats into sorrow and anger. I'm in the archives, and a surname becomes a cloud clustered in a cellar. The binders of treasure fold out and become walls. I'm a fish in a pool of my own sweat under the protective films of this historic map. The 18th century chair looks authentic, like it is made of recycled wood. Which ship is it siphoned from? And how many Africans did the ship carry? The chairs seem to have sprung from the wood floor of this archive like cannons protecting cargo, contraband, and the sorts. I am staring into the muzzle of a cannon's bore. This ship and I are lip to lip. With this 17th century map, I finger trace Norwood's festive coral reef outlines of the Summers Isles Company. I see the faces of family members and the texture of the vellum. I fear they will suffocate under this map. I'm trying to make sense of it all. This body, this name, kinship and constructions of family in a colonial empire. How did 3/5 make one vote from a commodified and phantomed human? They answer the question with a question. Can I dance on the fault lines until I fly? I am a child of African diaspora. My ancestors return to me when I call. It is our way. And the empire has branded me an expert and set my mouth about modern matters, making me an Ouroboros, a snake that feasts on its own tail. Everyone can tell my cuticles are frayed and red at the ends of all of me. When I was a girl, my daddy used to warn me that if I kept picking at myself, I would peel my cuticle skin back to my elbows. When I was young, people often called me dizzy, and they were not wrong. I have been plenty dizzy, looking lovingly at paintings of melted clocks, swaying to jazz tempos and hip hop songs, falling deeply in love with someone else's lover, sleeping at the foot of the bed rather than the head. All of these things will let you know that I am plenty dizzy. I can't keep a common sense of time. So when my 21st century self is coiled into an 18th century chair, looking at a 17th century map dated 1622, a time when England is at war with itself because the king thinks he's God and there are less archives than money. I climb to the edge of the antique table and tumble into the map, chasing what I know, the stories of my ancestors in my grandparents' voice. I am a deep sea diving person, reaching for this little bit of something, a red thread to lead me back to where I belong, to a home in the scattered outer realms of myth, aspiring to be empire. The archivist taps me. She tells me that I cannot pull my the whole self into the archive. I leave the waters of the map dripping, tempest in the socket of my eyes, the face of Sycorax tattooed on my neck, an eel in one hand and a thunderbolt in the other, the lessons of Caliban and curses dancing beneath the paper skin of my lips.
There was a quote that you made in the lecture. How do you hold on to the legacies of the past without inheriting the hell of your ancestors?
Mm-hmm.
Care to elaborate?
No, I don't. There is, it was a very valid question that may or may not have an answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I'm in the archives and I'm really in the archives, like I see the 17th century out of my left eye and the 21st century out of my right at
Mm-hmm.
the same time. Friends of mine thought I was going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, you got to stop doing that. And I was like, I can't stop doing it. Just couldn't stop doing
You mentioned, though, stand up and comedy, laughter
it. Mm-hmm.
as part of your medicine.
Definitely.
Another thing that you mentioned in the lecture was beauty.
Oh yeah, everything to
Talk
me.
to us about how beauty is important to you.
Because a capitalist society will make you believe beauty is only reserved for the wealthy and elite. Everybody deserves beauty. This is Earth, my dear. And the beauty that we don't see on Earth is because it's already been exploited for other means. When we see water that is not beautiful or tainted or poisoned, it's been exploited for capitalist means. So the beauty has been extracted,
Mm-hmm.
sold, and marketed for profit. All of us deserve beauty. Not all of my friends believe that, but I believe it.
I do too. Absolutely. Absolutely. What is one of the most beautiful things you have ever seen?
My niece laughing.
Hmm.
My niece laughing. My son singing.
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
my nephews living in their power. Those are the best things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the most beautiful things.
Yeah. And it's interesting because as soon as that question came out of my mouth, I was going to say, besides your children, right? But you answered before I got to even say that because that was the first thing that popped in my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was the faces of my children. How has your writing changed you, Damaris?
Oh,
Or has it? Maybe I should say, has it?
I don't know. It's made I get far less migraines. It makes me calmer.
Mm-hmm.
Get far less migraines. Um, I really don't know. I really don't know.
That's
I know
because
I
you're in the
do.
mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're in the mix of it, you don't know because you're doing it at that
Mhm.
moment. And it's not like you're sitting outside yourself looking down to see what happens. You don't have that kind of time.
I don't have that type of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know because, like you said, I'm in it. I don't know.
What are you hoping that people will glean from this book, the new one, Blood
Oh,
Buck?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to define home and what that means in the history of forced migrations.
Mm-hmm. that is your priority as opposed to what other folk are going to think and what they're going to take away.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can we support you in terms of this new book coming out? How can we support
Well,
you?
you can pre-order it. I think it's open for pre-order um on Barnes and Nobles. And I don't know why they're already selling it, but they're already selling it. Um and I don't know, by the older books, I don't know. I don't know. Engage in civic activity that's gonna save your life and others. Don't passively accept the pain that people are serving you. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very, or at least in my experience, it's a very different kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't leave you a lot of time to think about those other things.
Mm-hmm.
I find in my case that I'm so busy listening and
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep my ear tuned and translate as purely as I can that I
Yeah.
just don't have a lot of time for other stuff.
No, no, your life will become very streamlined.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Besides the physical book itself, is there anything else that you're thinking about doing with the work?
No, I mean I'm writing about other things. Like I'm thinking a lot about motherhood. Um, I'm writing some new absurd poems to go with the times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you started writing your stand up yet?
No, just
No?
writing the absurdity of these poems
Okay.
so
Okay.
far.
Well, thank you for taking some time to come
Thank
and
you for
see me.
inviting me to talk. It's always good to hang out and talk.
Thank you. And it was really lovely to talk about the evolution across books,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I did, that was one other thing that I did want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see those other books pouring into this one? And if so, how so?
I think so, but in other ways. Like I think A Bound Woman was was a type of cliff notes on liberation and warnings that you will be criminalized for exercising liberation. Um, and I think Breath Better Spent was trying to capture the beauty of Black girlhood culture and the way that it's being encroached upon and threatened. So I think at this point, I'm just trying to define home. What does that mean for a person like me? What is a home? Because, liberation will cost you everything, including your family. That's what people don't know. It'll cost you your home and your family. You will be free as a bird standing alone. So I'm thinking about what is the risk, thinking about home. If there is any risk,
And if there is any home,
if there is any home and if there is any risk,
right?
it might just be like I'll catch you on the other side. We good.
And I think, I mean, that's a really tough question for us because so many people don't like to think about it or they don't like to talk about it because they feel like there is no particular safe place for
Mm-hmm.
us in the world, right? Like you said, not having the language, not having lost so many things. That is a really, really tough question to tackle. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's the reason why I was feeling the way that I was feeling walking into this particular, episode and session with you is because that's really, really heavy, you
Yeah,
know.
what is
But
home?
yeah. And there's a certain breakthrough and freedom that we'll never experience until we have the courage to really deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying all of that to say, I love you.
I
But
love
I'm
you.
also, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I'm also glad and truly grateful that you gave yourself permission to be a writer
Mm-hmm.
and to share so much with us. Thank you so much.
Even at the risk of being poor for the rest of my life.
Even at the risk of many things, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Look,
yes.
being alone at the desk for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Even at the risk of all of these things, right? Because, I grew up in a family where my parents would tell me constantly, artists die poor.
Mm-hmm.
Watch it now. You're going to mess around and be hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes courage. It takes courage. So thank you for that.
Thank
Thank you for that.
you.
And thank you for popping in as always. And I have to say, too, you carry all of this. You carry all of this with laughter, and you carry it with laughter and beauty of your own.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what I'm saying? And not everybody can pull that off like that. And so that's an added treat as well. So keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
Yes,
going to take
ma'am.
that compliment and blessing.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, folks, it is a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Break Down the Poet and the Poems. And if you would, please like, share, pass it on to somebody, share your reflections, leave your comments. Find ways to support the poet. There's books to buy, there's workshops to take, there's
Yeah.
all kinds of ways that you can be supportive and that you can show the poet and the
And I will
poems.
be giving a workshop with the watering hole in November.
In November?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. And if you want to pass that information along, I can put that in the description as well.
I don't know if it's up yet, but I'll look.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we hope that you will join us for the next season. This is it for this season, but for the next season of Break Down the Poet and the Poems. Thank you, DaMaris.
Thank you.
This opportunity is made possible through the Literary Arts Projects, a program of South Arts.